Hey everyone, it's Blake. Welcome in to episode number 2 of our WWF 1992 save in TW9. This is WrestleMania 8. If you guys are jumping in, didn't see the previous episode we did start the 1992 series, now in TW9, as we had already done about 10 or 11 episodes in TW 2020. All we're doing is taking the storylines we used in those first, group of episodes, and we're just transferring them over to the start of this and fast forwarding a little bit to WrestleMania 8. So go back, check out the introduction episode before you hop into this. It'll kind of explain why we made that decision. This was a save I wanted to bring back. And we said our first show, which is very unusual for a save like this, is to start at the biggest show of the year. And it's WrestleMania 8 because we had already been building towards it in TW 2020. So a lot to get to on this show. So let's go ahead and jump in for the 8th installment of WrestleMania. We're holding this in New England. Just decided to kind of just pick wherever at this point, and since there was not an actual venue that could hold the demand, we decided just to go with a generic venue in New England. So, all right, we mentioned this was one of the matches going to take place on this card, and we did put it on the pre-show, and that is the new foundation, Owen Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, getting the win over the Beverly Brothers. Owen Hart pins Bo Beverly after the missile dropkick, 52 for this one. Just, kind of your usual stuff here. The Genius managing the Beverlys, always kind of a nice pair, but unfortunately, it's the new foundation who get the win here over the Beverly Brothers. So pre-show action, not a lot to note other than that. All right, we did add another match to the pre-show, and this one's not going to do as well. But we didn't tease this one at all, but it is Tatanka getting a win over Repo Man, 38 for this one. The in-ring performances were pretty good, but I think, it's kind of the best it could be here. And so I do like if you look at it, when you do a season finale, you kind of get a bonus for some of these matches that people, kind of perform as they should. And so we get a couple bonuses there. The wrestling pretty good, but the overall segment, these are not two guys that have a lot of popularity right now, but nonetheless, I mean, they're nice to have here in 1992, and you can probably guess which of the two could have a bigger role moving forward. So Tatanka getting the win over Repo Man in 502, and that's that. All right, now it's time to jump into the main card, WrestleMania 8, and we come on the air, and it's announced that we will hear from Hulk Hogan tonight via a special video message from Hulk Hogan. We have not heard from Hogan since he was attacked at the Royal Rumble. You'll have to go back to TW 2020 for that. But Hogan, as we know, was taken out of the Rumble. He entered at number 2, was attacked by a variety of heels in the aisle, and President Jack Tunney has been launching an investigation to figure out who was behind the attack on Hulk Hogan. Who's the person who called for this attack on the Hulkster? We still have no idea. And so we perhaps maybe find out more information tonight. But we will hear from Hulk Hogan via a special video message. 81 for this one. All right. We start the show off with our first match. It is Shawn Michaels getting the win over El Matador, Tito Santana. 9:38, the pinfall via the Sweet Chin music there. We did do kind of steal the show. We just wanted these guys to go all out because we know these two can work. So 60, we'll take that. I mean, look, it's not what Michaels would be several years later at this point. But still, we'll take it, and it gives him a big win at WrestleMania. And it's worth noting here, Shawn and Sherry, this is kind of upsetting for me. An awkward pairing. They have no chemistry whatsoever, so that's going to give us a bit of a penalty anytime now that we have these two together, which, again, is unfortunate. I like the pairing of Shawn and Sherry. But, yeah, so we may have to make a decision on that. I think it's pretty easy to work around that eventually if we want to kind of have them go their separate ways, but that's at least something we know we have to work with now based on the penalty there. So Santana penalized for the physical condition and just the managerial chemistry. So it took it down a little bit, but still, we'll take this. A nice 60 for the segment rating. For Shawn getting the win over El Matador, our road agent notes. Again, we did do steal the show, but that was about it for this one. Didn't really complicate it too much since the goal was to be pretty simple. Shawn Michaels gets a win at WrestleMania, and that was about it. So, all right. Now we go backstage. It's Sean Mooney with the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich, the Big Boss Man, and Hacksaw Jim Duggan. We know they're getting ready to face the beasts here, as they say. They're going to bring down the beasts, and that is one of the greatest three-man teams I can ever remember. Haku, the Barbarian, and the Warlord. So you got a variety of tag team iterations there with those three. So, just your typical, here's your interviewer cutting a promo here. The babyface is getting ready for the big match. Everybody's excited. They're hyped up. They're hitting lockers back there, all kinds of stuff. They're ready to go. So they're fired up. 61 for this one. Texas Tornado, the personal issues. So we're going to get the note there with that for him anytime, we do anything. So we've got to keep that in mind in terms of our booking. But that will take us to the 6-man tag. And as much as I love this 3-man team of Haku, the Warlord, and the Barbarian, it is the babyfaces triumphing here as the Texas Tornado, Hacksaw, and the Boss Man get the win after Texas Tornado pins Haku with the Tornado Punch. So we get a 59 here for the segment. In terms of our in-ring performances, the Boss Man at the top should be no surprise. And that's what always it blows my mind when I go back and play this kind of era. And I look at the ages of some of these guys. I'm like, oh my goodness. That guy felt like he was 45 when I was watching him back then. But he was, 27, 28, something like that. So, so that's always kind of a fun little thing. But what about Hacksaw with a 60 on the in-ring performance? He's a tough guy. So that just kind of shows you where we're at there. So pretty good stuff here. A nice little 6-man tag. Thought would be a nice addition to this card, just to have some variety and all that. But the babyfaces get the win. I don't really think I added a lot more other than that on this one. Honestly, just kind of a simple one here. So yeah, a little penalized for physical condition. The Warlord penalized for poor selling. You don't say. But there you go. Babyfaces. Nice little quick hot match here with these three getting the win. All right, now backstage, and we've got kind of your dueling promos. You guys remember how this worked back then, where you'd go to, the two locker room backdrops, and, you'd have a different announcer in one of them, and so you kind of go back and forth, and that's how we're doing these interviews on this show. So it's the Mountie saying he always gets his man, and remember, the Mountie has been out to clean up the WWF. And so he's already cleaned up Coco and his bird Frankie. Who knows what he's been cleaning up for Frankie. But he said he's going to do the same thing with the Bulldog and Matilda here. So that's the Mountie. He's out for animals at this point in his career. So, and then the Bulldog reiterating that it's his year. That's the theme we were playing up in our previous episodes in TEW 2020. 1992, the year of the Bulldog, is what the British Bulldog has been saying. So one-on-one here. The Bulldog, the Mountie, 58 for the segment. And pretty good match, 65 here for this one, as it is, as you would expect. The British Bulldog getting the win over the Mountie in 750. The running power slam does it, so a nice victory for Davey Boy Smith here at WrestleMania. And remember, Jimmy Hart is everywhere. We're going to have a note on Jimmy Hart after this show, by the way. We'll also have a little bit more for Jimmy Hart on this show, as you're going to see. But, we've got plenty to work with the British Bulldog. Still think the Mountie, he's an invaluable part of the roster. But, 65, I think that's probably about as good as it could have gotten here. A little inconsistency for the penalties there, but, that's about it. So, pretty good match here. I enjoyed this one. Enjoyed putting this one together, even though you didn't really have much to work with here on the new save. But, Bulldog gets the win. All right, folks. I mentioned the Superfly Jimmy Snuka. It's his final WrestleMania match. And yes, I may have said it was his final WWF match. That was a mistake on my part because I want to keep trying to get a little bit of popularity out of Mr. Snuka here. However, as you're going to see, that may not be possible, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But so we're kind of pushing this as Jimmy Snuka's last WrestleMania match, all right? It's just one of your, he's going to come out, he's going to thank the fans. WrestleMania, blah, 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 whatever. But so he comes out, and this is way more about who we're going to have appear in this spot. So, again, Jimmy Snuka, a celebratory moment for the Superfly. And then his opponent appears. And if you're wondering why I say, he appears, well, look, we see the guy walking down the aisle, but we're going to kind of set it up as a tease. 62 for this one. And who's he going to face? He's going to face Papa Shango. 48 for the segment. Decent reaction, terrible wrestling. Papa Shango defeats the Superfly Jimmy Snuka, 652, the Voodoo Driver. We did tell a story on this one. We had to do storytelling somewhere, and I actually probably could have put that on Tatanka or the Repo Man or whatever. But who cares? It's fine. But we are kind of telling a story with this one, so I just threw it in here. Not great on the in-ring here for Papa Shango, but what I do feel confident about, I'll get to this in just a second, we did do a clean, decisive finish. And I'm going to tell you why I'm laughing about that here in a second. So we got some penalties here, but Superfly Jimmy Snuka was extremely unhappy with the booking of this match. And so I decided to lean into it even more because I need to get Papa Shango a little popularity. And so there's a big gap between the two right now. And Snuka may walk out of the company after this show. And you know what? I'll take my chances because we needed to get Papa Shango some popularity. I think he's only like a 38 right now. And so not only did we have him beat Jimmy Snuka, we had him do it decisively. So we're pushing Papa Shango here. And yeah, some people may enjoy that, some people may not. But don't worry, I don't see Papa Shango as a future WWF champion. But I do kind of want to have him in a much better position than he's in at this moment in terms of popularity. So Papa Shango gets the win over Jimmy Snuka. Snuka goes out in his final WrestleMania match, losing to the Voodoo Man himself. So there you have it. All right, now it's time for one of our, what I would say, triple main events here. Jake the Snake Roberts is saying that Roddy Piper stuck his nose in the wrong man's business. Now, we know that came about after Jake had tied Randy Savage to the ropes following their, basically what felt like a blow-off match between the two at Saturday night's main event. And Jake went after Elizabeth, had Damien, and we didn't know what the hell Jake was going to do. So Roddy Piper, who was on commentary, came after Jake, and that kind of ignited this feud between these two. And Piper has continued to say he's not going to let Jake Roberts go around going after innocent women. And so that's Piper's kind of story here. And so here we go. Jake the Snake Roberts, Roddy Piper. I'd like to think we kind of positioned this right before the intermission, maybe. I assume they were still doing those in 1992. So that is kind of your setup here. 90 for this one. Let's see what the match does between these two. And in a 79, which I will absolutely take between these two, it is Jake the Snake Roberts and Roddy Piper fighting to a double countout. You think I'm going to give you a clean finish on every single one of these matches in 1992? There's no way. So this was the one that got the draw results. Don't worry, we're not going to get a draw in the main event. But look, I mean, again, this is just kind of the way it works sometimes. You guys know some of these WrestleMania matches, they didn't always give you clean finishes. It isn't like it is, in this era, and even now there's some that don't do that too, but this is one we kind of get away with. So Jake and Piper, a double count out. Basically, we're just telling the story, right, that these two just could not control themselves. They couldn't be contained to a ring. They had to just keep brawling everywhere. So we get a double count out, 79. Tremendous stuff here. I don't even know what else I put. I mean, we did the draw, the double count out, open. We did do, I'm not sure why we protected Roddy Piper. Oh, yes, I do know why we protected Roddy Piper. Because he wasn't good with just drawing with Jake the Snake Roberts. He didn't even want to lose. Like, there was an opportunity I had to maybe have Jake win, but Piper was unhappy, and now there's a difference between me wanting to make Piper unhappy and maybe Snuka in terms of how I want to use them moving forward. So we had to make sure Piper was not going to be pissed off. So that's one reason we did the draw, but we also did the protected note on there just to kind of soften that a little bit. So, but the story is not really the match because, as we said, they fought to a double count out. They're outside the ring. And so that leads to, in a 70 segment here, Jake has gotten the upper hand on Piper, and that is when Jake pulls up the mat from ringside. And what happens? The blue mat has been pulled up, and that is when Jake hits the DDT on Piper on the exposed floor. And so all the officials are running out to check on Piper. The fans are booing. This dastardly Jake the Snake Roberts is up to no good again. And now what's going to happen with Roddy Piper? He just took a DDT on the exposed floor here. So the concrete floor, what are we going to do about this? What's President Jack Tunney going to do about Jake the Snake Roberts? I'll tell you right now, he's probably not going to do anything, is Tunney. But that's kind of your development there, is that they draw, but it is Jake getting the upper hand with the DDT on Piper on the floor. So we'll see what that leads to coming up. All right, 71. We're on a roll here. These segments are doing better than I thought they would. These kind of little interview segments. So we've got our tag team match coming up for the WWF tag team titles. And it's the Natural Disasters kind of pushing that they're going to shake up the WWF. I was trying to think of what are some of those cheesy lines that they used in some of these backstage promos. But they're going to shake up the WWF here. LOD is going to, body slam them. That's what, anytime you got two big guys like this, everybody in 1992, I just want to see you body slam them. So LOD coming after the natural disasters. The disasters are going to try to shake things up. Now, remember, we've been pushing a little bit of, miscommunication. Where does Jimmy Hart stand? Because he's also representing Ted DiBiase and IRS. A lot of stuff going on with the disaster that you can find out by going back and watching some of those episodes in the TEW 2020 series. But, and remember, Typhoon did eliminate Earthquake in the Royal Rumble. So we kind of pushed all those things with these guys heading into this tag team match for the titles. So 71 here for this one, and not so good of a match here. A 50 for the segment rating here. The wrestling actually not. I mean, look, Hawk and Animal, 71 and 70. I mean, that's why they're the champs. But it is the Legion of Doom defeating the natural disasters after Hawk pins Typhoon. I don't know why it says using the ropes for leverage. I don't think we did a cheap finish on this at all. So I'm not really sure why that's there for the baby faces, for one. That doesn't make any sense. But the bigger thing we had here, and again, I don't know where some of this got crossed over somehow, but Jimmy Hart accidentally hits the Earthquake with the megaphone, all right? And so that's kind of one of the things we've said. There's been a little bit of a rift, a little bit of some miscommunication, so we're kind of pushing that angle again here too. Jimmy Hart accidentally hits the Earthquake with a megaphone, and that allows the Legion of Doom to get the win here on that. But a lot of green, here. Animal off his game, but I'm trying to think, what did we do here? Yeah, we didn't do anything on terms of a cheap finish. Hawk to be the victor, Typhoon to lose, Earthquake should be hit by Jimmy Hart as the finish. That's kind of how we set it up. So I don't know. I don't know what happened there with the baby faces cheating. Maybe they're trying to tell us something. Maybe they're going to make a turn. So Typhoon also forgot the script, so that didn't help this match at all. So anyways, this is fine, but you guys know what the bigger story is, like I said, coming out of this one. But the champs are still the champs. Hawk and Animal retain here at WrestleMania 8. All right, now we're getting ready for our Intercontinental Championship match. 70 for this one, as, kind of Bret Hart saying that IRS is going to pay, pun intended. And then we throw it to Shawn Mooney with Ted DiBiase and IRS, and DiBiase continuing to push that line that money can buy anything. And he says one of the first things he's going to buy is the Intercontinental Championship via IRS. So Ted DiBiase continue to push that he can buy anything he wants, and apparently has his sights, as we know, set on the Intercontinental Championship, although Bret once again calls him a coward here because Bret wanted to face DiBiase, but DiBiase threw IRS at him, so that's your WrestleMania 8 match coming up here. Bret Hart and IRS for the Intercontinental Championship. And, wow, now this is a match right here. An 82, and what's interesting about this, they have no chemistry, and they still got an 82 here for the segment. So we'll stake that. 68 for the wrestling, 64 for the crowd, but we'll be good with this 82 over here. Bret with a 78, and yes, Bret did defeat IRS with the sharpshooter, and so Bret Hart wins, retains the championship, and that is his 6th successful title defense now of the WWF Intercontinental title. We didn't do anything except open match for this one. Worker chemistry is the only thing we got penalized for, so the segment rating could have been even better. But anything with Bret in it, I'm not going to be surprised at this point, just based on how good of a performer he is. So, and only at a 78. Eventually we're going to have 100 probably for Bret's in-ring performances. So, we'll take this here for an 82. For this segment, Bret is still the Intercontinental Champion, and Ted DiBiase, we'll kind of note it here. I don't think we have an angle for it. Very pissed after this as he's looking at his money following this match. DiBiase is just looking at all of his cash, and he's pissed off at whatever has transpired here. So, all right. Now it's time for one of our other main events. 75 for this one. Sid Justice is going to rule the world. The man returned to be part of the Royal Rumble. And we know it's been back and forth between him and The Undertaker since then to set up this big match between the two big men here at WrestleMania 8. And so Sid saying he's going to rule the world, won't let The Undertaker get in his way. It's worth noting, we do go to the promo with The Undertaker, but it's just The Undertaker staring into the soul of everyone looking through the camera. And so a man of few words is The Undertaker. So, all right, here we go. The Undertaker versus Sid Justice. What a match this could be. Here we go. And in a 78 on this one, it is The Undertaker getting the win over Sid Justice with the pinfall after the Tombstone Piledriver on Big Sid. And so we are kind of noting, we're going to give Sid a little bit of an out here, as Paul Bearer with a little interference. So just assume he did something with the urn or whatever. Again, going back and watching a lot of stuff in this era, if there's one thing I can guarantee you, it's that the referees were always up for being distracted in any match at all. So we're going to play into that by having Paul Bearer interfering here, and so that gives The Undertaker a little bit of an edge as he then hits the tombstone on Sid. No lack of psychology, so that's worth noting. Sid was off his game, so that didn't help. Undertaker is the flavor of the month, so good for him. And yes, the streak continues. We did not end the streak at WrestleMania 8. Do I think we'll have a streak that The Undertaker eventually had? In reality, maybe not, but for now, he still remains undefeated at WrestleMania. So 78, as we said for the segment. We did do Tainted Finish, so that's not going to, the popularity loss from Sid's not going to be as much because we still have big plans for him. But yeah, it's The Undertaker. I mean, come on. So not a lot really to be upset about here. This probably did about as well as it could have, minus the lack of psychology and Sid being off his game a little bit. So Taker with the win, and there you go. Little shenanigans, perhaps, to help. All right, now this is what we call our buffer match before we get to the main event, as it is the model Rick Martel, 50 for the segment, saying he's going to bring a little arrogance, a little sophistication to WrestleMania 8 here. And so he's going to go one-on-one with Greg the Hammer Valentine. And so, yes, this is, for all intents and purposes, like this is your match before the match, right? Between the two big main events, this is your buffer here. And here we go. The model Rick Martel, no surprise probably for anyone, gets the win over Greg the Hammer Valentine, 7:06. I don't like Valentine submitting, I'll tell you that. We're going to go pinfall for Martel. Probably a little handful of tights, I'm sure, too. But the Boston Crab is the Boston Crab. And so, 51 here for this one. No chemistry for these two. So, yeah, there's another one. I hope we don't get the non-chemistry for the main event, I'll tell you that. But, Martel getting a win, just, going to give the model a little bit of a popularity boost coming out of it, and that's really all we were shooting for on this match, to be honest with you. So, just getting Martel on the card and giving him a nice little win here over the Hammer, Greg Valentine. So, all right, before we get to the main event, here is our special video message from the Hulkster. And it is Hulk Hogan. Clearly, you can tell this man's a little down right now because he should be at WrestleMania wrestling for the WWF title. But Hogan, just in a very sort of serious tone here, telling all the Hulkamaniacs that he's let them down because he's not at WrestleMania, and now he's got to figure out how he moves forward here. Again, first time Hulk Hogan has not been at WrestleMania, and he's got to figure out what he's going to do. But he knows exactly what he's going to do. He's going to come for the people who attacked him at the Royal Rumble one by one. He's going to take all of them out. And then he's going to find out who was behind this entire ruse here, attacking him to make sure that he didn't make it to the Royal Rumble, where he would have came in and threw Ric Flair over the top rope to earn his spot at the WWF title. But Hogan says after he's done doing all of that, and he will find out who is responsible, he's coming for his WWF title, whether it's Ric Flair or whether it's the Macho Man Randy Savage. Hogan is coming for the title. So, kind of simple update here from the Hulkster. His mission statement, he's coming after all these guys that took him out. Remember, we had a variety of heels, so Hogan's got a bit of a lengthy list to start with here. But eventually, he's got to figure out who is behind this whole thing. Because if he's leaving in President Jack Tunney's hands, there's no chance he's going to find out. So Hogan's got to find out perhaps for himself. 92 for this one. So Hogan, first time missing WrestleMania. Oh, unreal. All right, now before we get to the match, it is our dueling promos here as well. Ric Flair saying that Randy Savage is too focused on Elizabeth. And Flair says he understands because look at the legs on her. Come on, we're talking like Ric Flair here. And of course, Flair is just saying all this about how Savage, it's way too personal for him at this point. He doesn't have his eyes on the prize. And so, Flair says he's always been the real world's champion, and he's going to walk out with a WWF title for the first time ever tonight at WrestleMania. So, Flair making it very clear that he thinks Savage is a little bit too riled up here in terms of making this personal and too focused on Elizabeth instead of on the WWF title. And Savage just saying that he is going to destroy Ric Flair for putting his hands on Elizabeth. Remember, it was Flair who tried to come out to console Elizabeth after the whole shenanigans that went down with Piper going after Jake. And so Piper and Jake were fighting away at Saturday night's main event. Savage was locked in the ropes after the snake bite. And then it was Flair trying to console Elizabeth. And that's how we got to this point. Things have gotten very personal between these two. But we also know this is for the WWF Championship, which is still vacant. Flair got here by winning the Rumble. Savage got here by basically being the handpicked person by Jack Tunney. And Savage made it clear that he was not going to stop until he got his hands on Ric Flair. So here we go. The WrestleMania 8 main event. The Nature Boy, Ric Flair, Macho Man Randy Savage for the vacant WWF title. Oh my, we shouldn't be surprised here. We should not be surprised here at all. A 99 for the segment rating. Wow. Between two of the best to ever do it. And as you see, Ric Flair defeats Randy Savage. Another one where it's just like, I always forget that when these guys have submission moves as their finisher, I don't necessarily want Randy Savage tapping out here or being, not really tapping out. You know, it's a little different in 92. But I would prefer Flair get a nice little pinfall here on Savage instead. But nonetheless, Ric Flair gets the win over Randy Savage. 93 for each of the in-ring performances here. This is great stuff for the WrestleMania 8 main event. Now, I forgot Piper's also on commentary, so he shouldn't be. Like, this is another one of those things where it's like, if I had taken this off, and if I had remembered that Roddy Piper was on commentary, we could have gotten the 100 here. But it's okay. I like it to be elusive. I don't want it to be my first show with a save, then it's nowhere to go but down, right? So we're still chasing that 100. But yeah, I forgot that Piper was one of the people on commentary, which he would not be here. He might have a concussion. But, yeah, so that's notable. I mean, what did I do? We did do kind of the slow build. We did put that in here, knowing these were two very talented workers. We could use that note, and we did. So a slow build, and this was pretty lengthy in terms of the match time. 22 minutes, yeah, so 24 minutes total. Yeah, I mean, Pat Patterson, the road agent, the commentary team, as we said, is what it is here. I mean, having kind of Bobby the Brain Heenan on a Ric Flair one. But it's also worth noting, you know, we are kind of playing up the story here of Savage would turn his focus to Elizabeth because you had Flair with Bobby Heenan, with Mr. Perfect. And so Savage has always kind of got his head on a swivel here because Elizabeth is there. And so it's like Savage just that one little moment where he slips up with his focus. Flair takes advantage. Flair wins the title. And that's kind of the story we're telling coming off of this. Yeah, if we look at all this stuff, I mean, yeah, like I'm like all this. I mean, really everything. I mean, Flair penalized for the physical condition and all this other stuff. That's worth, you know, mentioning. But like, I'm not going to be upset about this. And I will say, this was the one I had the toughest time with. Like, all these other matches, I pretty much knew exactly where we're headed on who was going to win or how the finish was going to be. I went back and forth a lot on this one because, and even like initially going back to TEW 2020, I'll be honest, I still was not convinced which way I was going to go with who was going to win this match. But what really helped me was going and just literally on my notes app, I just listed, I'm like, all right, let me look at the potential list of opponents for one of these guys who, depending on who wins the WWF Championship. And when I compared the two lists, and I'm not going to give you all the names because that would reveal maybe some of the plans we have coming forward, but I'm like, the list I had for Flair was way more intriguing to me than the list I had for Savage when it came to the next opponents in line for the WWF title. So that's why I decided to go with Flair. I know in real life it was Savage who won it. And yes, for the first time, we're going to have a heel walking out as the champion to end WrestleMania. But we're not done here yet because we're going to go off the air, and this was clearly something we could have done a little bit better here. But I thought this would do way better, but maybe it's because we added Mr. Perfect in. But, so we've got kind of the visual here, right? Ric Flair is celebrating with Mr. Perfect and Bobby the Brain Heenan. We didn't put Heenan on here, but Mr. Perfect, clearly the one that messed this up. So maybe I should not have just put him in here at all. I should have just left it to these two. But, so Perfect celebrating, Heenan celebrating, Flair's walking down the aisle with the WWF title. And meanwhile, we just get kind of the closing visual of Randy Savage just sort of sitting in the ring with his hands in his head here. And then he's just looking over at Elizabeth. And that's how we go off the air for WrestleMania 8, is just Savage, clearly devastated, and he's just looking intently at Elizabeth as Ric Flair celebrates being the WWF champion to end WrestleMania 8. 83 for this one. And that is how we finish up this show 92 for WrestleMania 8. Like I said, I'm trying to think, like, if we could have done better on this last segment, we could have manipulated that a little bit better without perfect in there. Probably would have done better, but it is what it is. Am I going to be upset with the 92? Of course not. For WrestleMania 8, our first show with the save. Don't know how many times we're going to hit 92 on the Superstars moving forward. So, we will find out. But there you go. Hope you guys enjoyed WrestleMania 8. A pretty lengthy card, I would say, but I think I'm very excited about what we have in store here. This is one where, like I mentioned, I've been going back and watching a lot of these Coliseum home videos and stuff from like the early 90s. And this is just like, I feel like I'm back in my groove here with this era. So, I'm looking forward to the fun things we have in store. Now, it's like we got Saturday night's main event coming up. Not officially listed yet. But then, like, we got a little ways to go before we get to SummerSlam. So, we still got 4 months for the next big show of the year. But we got some fun stuff to keep you occupied until we get there. So, all right, let's see what else we need to jump into. Do we need to address the locker room? I don't know if I mentioned, I can't remember, but, like, the locker room is a complete mess. We had like 3 fights before the show. It's a mess. Ric Flair was one of them. I'm trying to remember who it was with. I don't remember exactly. Maybe it was the Nasty Boys. I think it was Flair and the Nasty Boys, who were nowhere to be found on this. And if you're a big Nasty Boys fan, I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't have a lot of motivation to book them. But we'll see if they make their way in somewhere. But Flair got in a fight. All kinds of people got in fights. So the locker room is brutal right now. So I don't know. But we're gonna single out some people and give them a nice little, maybe we should kind of pick Flair up a little bit and talk about how he's tremendous. So we're going to give Flair, we got to give Savage too. I mean, these guys just put on a 99 segment rating for the main event. So Savage is awesome. Who else do we give some love to? Maybe Papa Shango. Let's see who else we've got here as options. We'll go Brett. I mean, come on, we got to give Brett a little praise about how awesome he is, and then we'll go with Sid. I mean, Sid's coming off of we'll say he had a good performance, but Sid pointed out as a good example. I don't know, maybe pushing a little bit too much, but we'll go good stuff here for all those guys. All right, financial report. Let's see what we came out with here. Overall profit, $3.8 million. A cool $3.8 million coming out of this show. I'd like to make a cool $3.8 million coming out of anything. So there you go. $3.8 million is a good start. Popularity recap. Yeah, we're going to take a little bit of a jump here. Southern England, we're making moves over there. So, a little bit of a jump up. So no surprise on that. All right. Let's see. Do you want to hold a media scrum? Do we think we should do that? I think we probably should, shouldn't we? And we know I'm going to answer something wrong, but let's do it anyways. I don't think we should be doing a media scrum in 1992 after WrestleMania 8, but we'll do it, okay? We'll do it. All right. What a great first question after everything I just mentioned. Oh, does the WWF locker room have a morale problem? Yes, absolutely it does. And remember, I'm Shane McMahon here, very young, svelte Shane O'Mac. I'm not responsible, so I have no comment. That's a lie. I cannot say morale is great. There's no issue. That would be a lie. Let's go. I don't think there's anything with backstage morale to concern me. How about that? That sounds more realistic. So, there you go. Look at this. Perfect. This is tremendous. We hear that Jerry Sags and Brian Knox have been causing trouble for the rest of the locker room. We'd be taking action. Yes, they're not going to get booked. That's my action. These guys are not going to have any factor whatsoever in the shows. I might just call them out and say they need to get their act together. But if I say they were just having some fun, Flair's going to be pissed about that. I'm okay pissing off the Nasty Boys. Yeah, that's fine. Whatever, Brian Knobbs. With JWP being without an owner at the moment, is that an opportunity you'd be interested in? Who is JWP? Why can I not think about it? I mean, it's 1992. No, I have no interest at all. Haku was off his game tonight. How disappointed are you in his inconsistency? Boy, these are some press conferences right here. They're hitting me with the hard questions. Am I disappointed with Haku? If I say yes, Haku will literally slap the shit out of me, so I'm not going to do that. This guy will chop come on. You tell me I'm going to mess with Haku? Are you kidding me? Let's see. What's the best answer I could give? So, yes, everyone has off nights from time to time. Give him a break. Give Haku a break. WrestleMania 8 is considered a success. How do you feel? Of course it was a success. What's the best? Yeah, it was a huge success. My goodness, how many questions are there? I'm really taking questions from all over the world here. Commentary of Piper was pretty weak. Will he be using that role in the future? Are you done with him? No, he's fine. So, my goodness, give the guy a break here. As I'm going to say, you know what? He's done. He did a good job. Yes, Roddy, man had a concussion after a DDT from Jake the Snake. He's okay. Boy, that was tough. All right, let's see what else we need to get to. I'm sweating a little bit after that media conference there. All right, that was WrestleMania 8. Awesome show, getting fantastic reviews, as it should. Let's see if anything else of note here in the news. I don't really see anything going down the list here, except for Negro Casas injured. Whiplash neck strain. Not good there for him. But, all right, we got mail. Who knows what all is going to be in here. All right, drug test fees. Wonder how high that number is going to get. After the last show, yeah, look at this. WrestleMania has had a rise in importance. It is now rated as a historic event, as it should be, because we had such a great show. The buy rate, 2.18, 1,094,467 buys. Viewing figures, 0.11 TV rating. I don't remember where we're showing that out. We're showing it somewhere. 1.1 million overall viewers. So I mentioned Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart's hitting the road in July for a tour with his band. So the man's going to be gone for a bit. So if you're wondering why we did the finish the way we did it at WrestleMania 8, you're going to get the payoff for that coming up here in the next couple months. So, because Jimmy's hitting the road. So therefore, we got to do something with Jimmy. And we've got 2 big clients of his that we've got to figure out how we're going to do that. By the way, we have the owner goals. I'm not using those. It's just a personal choice. I don't want to be held to that just based on kind of the way we do this stuff. So that's just worth noting there on that. But all right, so that was WrestleMania 8. And if you want to quickly look at our schedule, as we said, we do have Primetime Wrestling. Our B show will tape every Monday. And that one we will not do proper episodes for that. We'll focus mostly on Superstars as we did in the previous save. So Superstars is kind of, set up this way, held on Tuesdays, shown on Fridays. Right now it's set up to tape 3 episodes at a time. I can tell you right now that probably will not be the case. We'll probably just do one at a time because otherwise the save will slow down considerably just because it takes me a little bit longer to book 3 episodes. So, probably will not be the way it sets up. So I've got to remember to change that, actually. But, all right, SummerSlam is our next show, not until August the 29th, 1992. That is a good way away. I mean, that's basically almost 5 months away. So, yeah, it's going to be a while before we get to our next big pay-per-view extravaganza. However, as I mentioned, and by the way, if you're wondering what we're going to do with SummerSlam, people asked on the previous save, are we going to do this at Wembley the way they did in 92? As of right now, I think that is the plan, but don't hold me to that just yet. But I think that is my plan. But before we get there, we're probably going to plug in a few more Saturday night's main events just to kind of give us something to work towards over the next basically 5 months. Because otherwise, just Superstars every week, I think it'd be nice to have 1 or 2, probably 2, because that's a lot of time to throw in there. So we will probably do that. There's also, I have an idea for just some kind of one-off sort of live event type shows that I think, would be fun too. And we may even do like a Coliseum home video type setup where it's like, you don't really get a lot of storyline advancement, but you also kind of get some fun, a fun mix of things to throw in there. I'll be like, hey, here's a match between this person and this person that took place in wherever, right? So we may do something like that. I think you guys would enjoy that. At least a little bit of, not the same, just Superstars every single week on every show. So that's my plan, a little variety. With that. So, all right, there you go, guys. WrestleMania 8. Hope you enjoyed it. That was a lot of fun. Again, I just feel like this is kind of my element, is this era, and that's why I've said for the longest time, even when I started this channel years ago, I just have always wanted like a late 80s type mod that I really can sort of sink my teeth into. This is the closest thing to that. This is one of the best mods out there in TW 2020 or TW 9, this 1992 one. So excited to jump back into this one because, again, this was kind of this was my era where I just look back and I'm like, there were just a lot of things that I liked about this, and not to say there weren't when we got to, the next era and the next era and all that. But yeah, this was just such a sort of simple, basic babyface versus heel, like just basic professional wrestling that I enjoyed. So, all right, let me know what you thought about WrestleMania 8. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button as well. Always appreciate your feedback. I have pretty much rebooked the next episode of WWF Invasion. So that will be up here pretty soon. Hopefully this weekend is the plan, because I'd said it in the comments, but like, I just have to go back and remember all the tiny details I put in, because I don't remember. So I have to go back and watch all these. And so I had to rebook the show that I'd already booked for the next episode of Invasion. So that should be coming out soon. And then, yes, we'll get back to the local to global save with Rocky Mountain Wrestling as well. All right, appreciate you guys. And on the next episode of our WWF 1992 save, it'll be the fallout from WrestleMania 8 with the next edition of Superstars.